Okay, so now that you've got matrices under your belt, we're now going to apply the idea of matrices to actually doing word problems. It says systems of equations can be applied to any problem situation that has two criteria. One, it has two unknowns or two variables, and it has two equations. So basically we're going to use the variables to create two equations. So let's look at this number 1. It says Teresa has a total of 40 DVDs in 2 categories. The number of action DVDs is 10 more than twice the number of documentary DVDs. Determine a system of equations that can be used to find how many action DVDs A and documentary DVDs D Teresa has. So it says, first of all, what are the two variables and what does each represent? Remember, the variable is the letters that represent something. So in this case, we've got A, which is action DVDs. So we would say A equals action DVDs. And then the second one is D, and that's representing our documentary DVDs. So now it says, what two equations could be formulated from the information in the problem using these variables? The biggest thing that you need to remember when you're trying to formulate equations is to look for totals. So if I look up here, you should see we've got a total of 40 DVDs, and they are in 2 categories. Well, we know what those 2 categories are. They're action and documentary. So if I put the action DVDs together with the documentary DVDs, I should get a total of 40. The way that you write that is that action DVDs plus documentary DVDs should be 40. So there's our first equation. The second equation comes from the next sentence. It says the number of action DVDs. So the number of action DVDs is. So action DVDs, this part, was represented by A. So A is. Remember, this is always your equal sign. So A equals 10 more than. Remember, this is our switch word. So we have to be 10 more than something. So I've got to be plus 10 to something. And it says twice, which is 2, the number of documentary, so documentary DVDs. So we're 10 more than 2D. So there's your 2 equations. But notice part C says solve. Well, we can't do that yet. This is in standard form. We've got A, D equals number. But the bottom one, I have A, so this one was fine. We're going to leave it the same. But this one was not. So the A goes here, but the D is on the wrong side. So we would have to move it over here. And so we said that would make this negative. And then we would have equals 10. So now we are ready to solve the system. We can actually put it into our matrices. So our matrix would be 1, 1, 40 from the first equation, and then 1, negative 2, 10 from the second equation. So now we're ready to go ahead and solve in our calculator. I'm going to go ahead and hit second plus 712. All that does is clear my calculator. So now second matrix, go over to edit. This is a 2 by 3. And now I enter my numbers. 1, enter, 1, enter, 40, enter. 1, enter, negative 2, enter, 10, enter. Then we do second, quit, second matrix, go over to Math, toggle up to RREF, reduced row, second matrix, pick A, close parentheses, and there's our answer. So we could copy down our solution matrix. I've got to go ahead and move this out of the way. So that would be 1, 0, 0, 1, and then 30, 10. So I know that my solution is 30 and 10, but I need to know what goes with what. Well, I need to see how I lined up my columns. These were the A's, these were the D's, these were the answers. Answers, capital A. So that means this was A, this was D, and these are my answers. So 1A is 30. So that means my action DVDs equals 30. So I have 30 action DVDs. And that my documentary DVDs is 10. So now down here, part D, the last part, says, is the solution reasonable to the problem situation? Explain. Well, yes. And we check. Do they add up to 40? Yes. 30 plus 10 does equal 40. So that's one reason it's reasonable. And does it say I have twice the number of documentaries? So 10 times 2 is 20, plus 10 is 30. So it works in the second equation as well. So 30 does equal 2 times 10 plus 10. In other words, if I plug in my answer, it works in both equations. The other thing is you want to check to make sure this is a real life problem. If you get negatives, we can't have negative DVDs. So that probably means we messed up somewhere. Or if I got 10 and a half, I really can't have 10 and a half DVDs. So that's our first example. Let's go to a different example that kind of uses the same idea. Go to this very, very back page and you should see one that looks like this. Okay? And this is what we call a mixture problem. It says set up two equations. It says manually solve. You can scratch that out. We're not manually going to solve, but we are going to solve by matrices. So let's look at this one and see if we can use the same principles. Felix has a bug collection consisting of beetles and spiders. He has 75 bugs in all. Altogether, they have 526 legs. So we need to identify our two variables. So looking at the equation, you should be able to tell that there's two things that we're talking about in this problem. One is beetles, and one is spiders. So let's let B stand for beetles, just because that's easy. And I'm going to let S stand for spiders. So we've identified the variables. Now we need to write equations. Well, remember we said to write equations, we want to look for totals. Look for totals. So one total in our problem is here. He has 75 bugs in all. So that means I would have one equation representing the total number of bugs. Well, we know that the total number of bugs is 75. Well, what two kinds of bugs do we have? Beetles and spiders. So if I add them up, beetles plus spiders should equal 75. The second one says, write an equation representing the total number of legs. Well, altogether, they have 526 legs. So I know that this is going to equal 526. But I can't just count beetles plus spiders, because beetles don't just have one leg. They have 6. So I would put 6 legs per beetle, plus, I'm hoping you know this, 8 legs per spider, should give me a total of 526 legs. So then the bottom part, solve the system to find the number of beetles. So B plus S equals 75. Our second equation is 6B plus 8S equals 526. They are both already in standard form. So they are already matrix ready. We don't have to move anything, we don't have to do anything. We've got the two variables on the left, the equal sign, and then the answers. So we can go ahead and set up our matrix. The top one would be 1, 1, 75. The bottom one would be 6B, sorry, no B, 6, 8, 526. And then I want you to go ahead and put that in your calculator and see how many beetles you come up with and how many spiders. And then once you have that answer, you can show me. And then I want you to work one more in this packet. If you flip to the very, very back, you should see this one up here. Sweets for the Sweet Sells Candy in Large Bins. I want you to work this problem. When you've finished those, come up and show me, and then you'll get a grade for those, and then you're ready for the next video.